So this just in, Charles Oliveira is going to be taking on Rafael Fiziev at Brazil. Now, in my honest opinion, I think that this is a bad fight for Charles Oliveira. I think that the only reason why he wanted to fight Rafael Fiziev is because of the fact that this fight is going to be taking on in Brazil. Is going to be taking place over in the home country of Charles Oliveira, and that's probably the only reason why he wanted this fight. But let's just all take a moment to remember the fact that Charles Oliveira is coming back from a significant freaking loss in his career, losing to Ilia Topuria via knockout. I think that the comeback is a little bit too short. I think that Charles Oliveira, without a doubt, should have taken at least another couple months off, maybe not fight towards the end of the year, maybe in December, if not in January. I think that his comeback is a little bit too soon. I am truly in loss for words as to how this fight even came about. Other than the fact that this fight has just taken place in Brazil, there's literally no reason whatsoever why Rafael Fiziev should be facing off against Charles Oliveira. Obviously, this is just one of those fights that, it's like a money fight because they obviously needed a main event. Charles Oliveira wanted to fight in Brazil, and, obviously the UFC are trying to make as much money as possible, and having Charles Oliveira headline a main event in Brazil is obviously going to be pretty huge. But besides that, there's no real reason as to why Rafael Fiziev, prior to beating Ignacio Bahamondes, should be fighting literally Charles Oliveira, the number 4 ranked lightweight in the UFC right now. There is no reason whatsoever why this fight should be taking place. Charles Oliveira is 6 ranks ahead of Rafael Fiziev. It would have made more sense for Rafael Fiziev to fight somebody like Beneil Dariush, Mateusz Gamrot, Dan Hooker, maybe even somebody like Paddy Pimblett. Those fights make a lot more sense than Rafael Fiziev competing against Charles Oliveira. Like I said, the only reason why they made this fight is because this is a Brazil fight, and obviously Charles Oliveira is a big name, Brazilian fighter. Like, obviously the UFC are trying to make as much money as possible, so they made this fight possible. But this fight should not be taking place whatsoever. There's no merit behind it. In my honest opinion, props to Rafael Fiziev, though, because he's been on a tear ever since he came back. It's going to be his 3rd time fighting this year. Earlier this year, we did see him fight against Justin Gaethje on March. Then he beat Ignacio Bahamondes on June 21st. And then we're getting word now that towards the end of this year, he is going to be fighting Charles Oliveira on October 11th. So that's one thing that I would give Rafael Fiziev props for, is the fact that, ever since he did come back from that injury, like, he is not shying away from fights. So that's always great to see. Personally, I do think that the UFC is giving Rafael Fiziev a toss-up. They're doing him a favor. Obviously, he's going to be fighting, a guy inside the top 5. So if Rafael Fiziev, for some miraculous reason, does end up beating Charles Oliveira, he's going to skip a crazy line of people. And he could probably be, one of the next fighters that we're sitting here talking about potentially fighting for the title. Like, imagine if Rafael Fiziev gets a title shot before Justin Gaethje. That would be insane. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. I do have Charles Oliveira being the favorite in this matchup. I do expect Charles Oliveira to come into this fight and to pretty much get a victory, literally because I think Charles Oliveira is that much better everywhere else. I don't think that he has like a straight up better striking game than Rafael Fiziev, but at the end of the day, this is MMA, and we do know that Charles Oliveira is very, very good at grappling, wrestling, and of course his jiu-jitsu is always very deadly. But you can't count out Rafael Fiziev. If he does come into this fight, fighting smart, he does have a chance of at least competing well, with Charles Oliveira. But if I'm being honest, I just don't see that happening whatsoever. This is a funny matchup, to say the least. This is the way this entire thing is being set up, and the way that it's been released, and the way that it's been announced. I think it's a little bit weird. It's weird to have Charles Oliveira, one of the greatest fighters in lightweight division, one of the biggest fighters Brazil has ever seen, get announced, in this, fashion, in this way. I thought that they were probably gonna try to boost this fight in terms of hype as much as possible, but that just doesn't really seem to be the case anymore. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Are you guys excited for this matchup? Personally, I think that this matchup is going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be pretty enticing to see whether or not Charles Oliveira still has those championship level capabilities, especially now that he's fighting a guy that's ranked at number 10 in the lightweight division. In my honest opinion, I think that the entire lightweight division should look at this matchup and try to get something going for themselves, because it seems to be that no one in the lightweight division just wants to face each other. We do have some fighters calling out other guys, but there seems to be a big case right now in the lightweight division where we are seeing now more than ever a lot of fighters just ducking each other, avoiding each other, really don't want to mention each other's names, and flat out publicly denying that they will ever give another said fighter their fair chance at potentially, sharing the octagon with them, which I think is just crazy. It's just crazy that professional cage fighters don't want to be professional cage fighters. That's insane. It's never happened before. I mean, yeah, obviously it has happened before, but in this day and age, we shouldn't really be seeing that. There should be some sort of incentive to get the lightweight division going, because there is a lot of big names, but for whatever reason, these fighters just don't want to fight each other, which I think is insane. It really is. But hopefully this is, one of those times and one of those fights where these guys are looking at the entire division and they try to pull some strings. And finally, we do get, some news soon in the lightweight division where there's going to be more fighters interested, hopefully, fingers crossed, fighting against one another. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on this entire matchup. Rafael Fiziev versus Charles Oliveira, in my opinion, is a funny one, but I'm curious to read what you guys have to say. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. As always, it's a pleasure. Subscribe to the channel. Peace out and have a good one.